Happy Thursday, you guys. Happy Friday Eve. I just wanted to check in. I haven't really been live this week because I got my COVID vaccine and the side effects really affected me. So this is actually my first day kind of really up and moving since Monday. And as soon as this live is done, I'm going to lay it back down. But I made it. Look, I made it through the day. But anyway, I wanted to pop in because I was thinking about something. So I spent today at City Hall emceeing Girls Day at City Hall. It's the 11th annual, and it's usually in person, and there's usually hundreds, close to 1,000 girls there from all over. So many they can barely fit in the rotunda of City Hall. And kudos and shout out to Alderwoman Malele Cox and team for the vision and for the wherewithal to continue to pull this off. And, now she's got other alder women on the squad that have joined her. And we know she shattered that glass ceiling by becoming the first woman on Milwaukee's Common Council. And now there's 5 of them. So that's so dope. But as I was driving home, I was thinking that most people, especially that live in Milwaukee in particular, would think that my story would be almost impossible. How does someone who is a transplant, didn't grow up here? So I didn't, if you're from Milwaukee, I didn't go to King, Riverside, North Division, South Division, Madison. Let me think of all y'all schools. I can't think of them all right now. None of the suburban schools, none of them. I moved here for college. And, it's really interesting because I moved here for college. So I've been here for 26 years now. Jesus. However, when I entered into the workplace, I always had a job that kept me on the road and out of state. So even with that, I wasn't able to build a lot of core foundational relationships. I wasn't able to join a lot of professional organizations, et cetera, because I was literally on a plane, train, or in an automobile 4 out of 5 days a week. And when I would get back to Milwaukee, I would be hightailing into Chicago to see my mama or my girlfriends or some of my older relatives when they were still living. And so that was my thing. I mean, people literally would look at me and say, I thought you didn't live here anymore. Like I was in Chicago so much on the weekends. But anyway, I titled this Barrel or Ocean because something that I've been told since I moved here is that Milwaukee has a crabs in a barrel mentality. And, for those who are not familiar with that, it's basically saying like, if you have a bunch of crabs in a barrel, they're all pulling one another down to try to get to the top to get out versus, if they would actually work as a team, they probably could all get out before they get cooked and eaten. And so, I always thought that an interesting thing, and I'm not going to pretend like I haven't met some interesting people over my 26 years living here, especially, you just grow up in different places. You have different ways in which you move, talk that you're used to. So there's been seasons here that I felt misunderstood or that I felt that it was more difficult than it should be to find my tribe. But my local tribe, I should say, because I got my core tribe that I've had since I was a kid, and just unfortunately none of them live here. But I will say, it really became a perspective shift for me, especially when I launched the PowHER Network 5 years ago and launched it specifically for women in Milwaukee and surrounding areas, knowing that it would eventually expand out and have a national footprint. But, as a person who helps build brands and market things, I'm always like, okay, you want to go national, but have you gone local yet? Like, do these people in your own city know you? Like, how can you be focused on helping people all over, but you got a woman sleeping on the street, right up the street, that you haven't done anything for? No judgment, no shade, because I know there's so many people out there like I'm called to the nations, et cetera, and that's cool. But for me personally, I just I can't. I personally, the way I'm wired, feel like my neighbor next door is just important as my neighbor across the pond, and so I had to have a perspective shift that although there is a thought process that there was a crabs in a bucket mentality in this city, that instead of looking at the city like a bucket, that I was going to look at it like an ocean. And what I mean by that is the ocean is vast. It is, if you look at it from space, I mean, it's a majority of the earth. It is so deep in some parts that, man has never been to the bottom. It's so shallow in other parts. It's so clear, depending on where you are. I've been in some parts of the world where the water is just clear blue and you can see all the way to the bottom and you can see all the fish. I've been snorkeling. I've seen beautiful reefs and things like that. And so, when you think about how diverse and how vast and how deep and how wide the ocean is, it's like, what if you look at the city you live in, even if you don't live in Milwaukee, it's like that. I get the statistics that we're the most segregated city in the country, that we have, that the zip code that inhabits the highest incarceration rate for Black men is in this city, that only 50% of Black men in this city graduate from high school, per the statistics, the racial injustice that happens here, so many things. I mean, I get it as a businesswoman, I get it as a parent, I get it as a leader, I get it as a woman, period. I get it as a social architect, as someone who is concerned about more than just the people that live in my home, and someone who is focused on impacting change. But really the point of this video in particular, because so many people are, thinking about, if they change their location, they'll change their life. And this is not, because look, I do not plan to live someplace forever where there's a winter, and there is a winter in Wisconsin. So I do not plan to live here forever. But it's not about the city per se. It's not about me not thinking, or me being tired of the people here, or me feeling like my life is going to get exponentially better because I moved to another state, because I believe that I can create opportunity anywhere. I'll never forget, years and years and years ago, I was dating a guy, and he was like, I get it. I get why you're such a big deal there, because you're a big fish in a small pond. And I said, homie, you could drop me in the ocean and I'll still be a big fish. Because at the end of the day, I grew up in one of the largest cities in the world. And ladies, don't let no man try to play you like that. That was his way of making his ego feel better. Was like, so, feeling like this was a big thing. Whatever. So anyway, I just wanted to say that a perspective shift can change your mind, because for all intents and purposes, there's no reason the Power Network should be successful. There's no reason that so many people should know who I am in a city that I didn't grow up in. There's no reason that I should have all the opportunities that I have. But I'll tell you, the reason I do have them is because I make a point of making genuine connections. I make a point of volunteering. I make a point of giving back. I make a point of connecting myself with good people. I make a point of pouring in. What you pour out, you give back. The universe is so magnificent that way. And so instead of sitting around and complaining like I can't get anywhere because this crabs in a bucket mentality city that I live in, I just want to encourage you to think of it as like it's an ocean. And if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. I always say that about the Power Network. I'm like, yo, if the Power Network can launch and be successful in Milwaukee, where all of these different stereotypes, thought processes, statistics, et cetera, happen, and I, as a Black woman, can build a firm that accomplishes what we accomplish each and every year and gets national exposure and national contracts from being here based in Wisconsin, then there's nothing that could stop us if I wanted to go to another market, or nothing that could stop us if I wanted to move to another city. And same with you. The only thing that can get in your way is you. And so the only thing that can get in your way is you buying into the thought process of this being that type of place. Now, depending on what you do for a living, it might be time to switch markets. I'm not saying you gotta stay here forever. So this is not that type of thing. This is really about mindset. Everything starts with mindset. And it's really about, for those who feel like the issue that's holding them back in this particular city are other people. I will tell you that people have, this is, business is about reputation and referral. And so what is your reputation and who's in your referral network? And so if your reputation does not precede you in a way that can garner you the opportunities, the business, and the relationships that you want to receive, then you need to clean that up. And if you're not in a place that people understand what value you add to a particular organization, individual, etc., that they wouldn't refer you personally or professionally, then perhaps you are not selling yourself or networking enough. And networking is not about selling, it's about building relationships. Or perhaps you don't have relationships with the right people. A lot of us are in relationship with people based on history that don't have any type of fitting in our future. And so sometimes the best boundaries you can set for yourself is the boundary of knowing, like, this is done and I have to move on to get to that next place that I want to be. And it doesn't mean you don't love them, and it doesn't mean that you don't have a relationship with them, but it's about expansion, it's about growth, and it's about evolution. And you can be unapologetic about that. And this whole premise of like, oh, we've been, and it's not to say, like, my best girlfriends have been my best girlfriends for decades, like for a majority of my life. And so they're not going nowhere. But the great thing is that they are so good, and I'm so proud of them. And they tend to say, there's a cliche that says birds of a feather flock together. I can say, like, the birds that I flock with, like the ones that I fly with, they're all dope in their own right. And so then there's no need to be pulling each other down in the barrel, because guess what? We all out of it. We all out of the barrel, the bucket. We all swimming in the ocean, trying to get somewhere and trying to make sure that we making the world a better place. And so then, they have that meme that goes around like, sit with winners, the conversation is different, because we all winning. And that again, that's a mindset thing, because winning means different things to different people. But because we're all winning in our particular lanes, none of us do the same thing. But even if we did, I believe there's enough out here for everybody, because I do have friends that some of us are in similar lanes. Similar is never, it's not the same to me. There's nobody else that does what I do, just like, there's nobody else that does what you do. And so that is a completely different situation. So anyway, just wanted to let you know that you could think of it as a barrel, or you could think of it as the ocean. But I'll tell you, the sooner you start thinking of it as the ocean, the view get better, the neighbors get better, everything get easier. And the idea, just think about the idea of that you're in a barrel and you're not getting out because other people are constantly pulling you down. Like, how can you wake up with a positive outlook? How can you wake up with positive perspective? How can you wake up inspired and motivated to keep going? There's no way that I could wake up and do what I do every day for a living if I focused on, because it's not to say they don't exist, but if I focused on the people who are praying for my downfall or trying to pull me down as I'm climbing up, I'm always going to feel like there's this thing against me. And there is something, there's always going to be opposition. There's always going to be competition. There's always going to be somebody who doesn't want the best for you. But that issue is not your problem. You do not have to have a subscription to their issues. And I refuse. Some people call it mean. They call it cutthroat. They like, she quick to cut them. I don't have time for negativity. I don't have time for foolery. I don't have time for fugazi, meaning fakeness. Like, I am focused on legacy, and I am focused on positive change, and I am focused on positive people, and I'm focused on love, and I'm focused on impact. And if you don't fall in line with those things, then what are we talking about? So anyway, on that note, oh yes, I love that ocean view. Beach chair life. That's what I'm talking about. And you know what? That's honestly when I feel most at peace, is when I have a water view. So that's a great coincidence that's what I was thinking about today. And I just feel so blessed. Like, I say this in all humbleness, I feel so blessed and so thankful for doing all the things that I get to do on any given week. And I don't take it for granted at all. And I'm just thankful. I'm thankful I get to help people. I'm thankful I get to coach people. I'm thankful that, my oldest son said to me, he said, Mom, you're a genius. So, you look like, what you want, boy? You need some money? What you? He said, no, I'm serious. And I said, how so? And he said, because you figured out how to leverage the Power Network, the brand, meaning like you doing the power hours, you coaching people, you helping other people build their thing. He said, but then also you have Chantel McKenzie, the brand, where people hire you specifically for you, and you speak and you host and you MC and you get paid to be on the speaker circuit. He was like, that's genius. He was like, you figured out how your brands can work in symmetry with one another. And I really, I don't think, I think, I used to think the best compliment in the world came from my parents. But now having young adult children, I feel like, when they give a compliment, because there's such sincerity in that. I mean, who knows you better and who's watching you closer? That I think that that's even outranked the parental thing at this point, because at this point, he definitely knows me just as good, if not better, than my parents. So it's just something else to think about. And yeah, that's about it. I'm tired. Feel like I'm rambling. I've been talking since 9 o'clock this morning. I love you guys. Peace, love, power. You are not a crab in a barrel. You are, someone asked me recently what were my favorite animals. It was a colleague, and we were trying to get to know one another's personality. And I said eagles, wolves, and lions. And I was like, eagles, because they do everything in the air. You ain't never gonna see no eagle around on the ground unless it's hurt, like a pheasant or a pigeon, or, like that's just one of the birds you're not gonna see it. Like you gotta climb to the mountaintops to see them. I mean, a real mountaintop. Like I had to walk 2 hours up the mountain. It was probably more like 3 to see an eagle. But eagles even make love in the air. Like they do everything in the air. So you can't just be rolling with eagles. So I said that was why it was my number one. I was like, my number 2 are wolves, because, they might call lions the king of the jungle, but as the cliche go, you don't usually see a wolf in the circus, which means they hard to catch, they hard to make a fool of, and they tough. They tough. They beastie. You don't see a lot of people walk around with wolf coats on. You don't see wolves in the zoo. You don't see no big wolf dens at the circus. Like, ain't nobody messing with wolves like that. And then I said the lion as my third. And the reason it's my third, first of all, is because you do see lions in the circus and at the zoo. So to a certain extent, they can be contained. But also what I love about a lion in the wild especially is lions carry themselves so regally, yet in such an intimidating factor, that even as soft as they are, that they can end up in a circus or a zoo. And as family oriented as they are, as they travel in their packs, an elephant roll up on them, they can get their fur out and they can get so that all of a sudden this elephant that could easily pick up its leg and stomp this lion into nothing runs. The other thing I love about lions are the lionesses. The female lions are the hunters. They the ones out there getting it. And so it's probably foul in this patriarchal world we live in that they do all the work, yet, the men get all the hoopla because they the ones that get to grow all the hair. But we know who working in that pack. And so those are my animals. What are your animals? Think about it. And think about why you feel like you connect to them. I thought it was an excellent question. And that colleague, he had the same as me, with the exception of instead of his number 1 was shark. And that put me on my like, I dig that. Just think about how they rule the ocean and how they are. So I could feel them, but I'm still stick to mine. I don't think of myself as a shark. But anyway, all right, I'm gonna go for real, y'all. Peace, love, power. I'm out.